Curtis Ray had spent most of his 56 years learning to live with the quiet ache of unfulfilled dreams, the kind that settle into a man's bones the way Tennessee humidity settles into the air. Most mornings started the same. Coffee gone lukewarm before he even took the second sip, a worn-out pickup coughing its way down County Road 8, and a list of handyman jobs that kept him busy enough to forget the worry gnawing at him. But nothing weighed heavier than the envelope his daughter Lily brought home that spring afternoon, a college acceptance letter she held like a fragile miracle. Pride swelled in him, but fear came just as quickly. Tuition figures didn't care about good intentions. Bills didn't soften for single fathers who'd already buried one dream, the woman they loved. That night, long after Lily fell asleep with her acceptance letter tucked under her pillow, Curtis sat at the kitchen table doing math that would never add up. He needed something big, something life-changing. So when his old friend Roy mentioned a foreclosed house on Oakwood Lane going up for auction for only $25, Curtis felt that rare spark of possibility. Maybe, just maybe, he could flip the place, pay Lily's tuition, and finally give her the future she deserved. He didn't know then that the house would offer something far greater than money. It would deliver a truth buried for 40 years and change every life it touched. The house looked like it had been forgotten by time itself, weed-choked yard, sagging porch, siding the color of storm clouds. Still, Curtis saw potential the way only a man who's rebuilt himself can. At dawn, he parked his truck, grabbed his toolbox, and stepped into the overgrown driveway as cicadas buzzed like restless memories. Work steadied him. He replaced rotted boards, ripped out carpet that smelled of decades of neglect, and opened windows painted shut by age. Sweat soaked his shirt daily, but it felt purposeful. 6 weeks in, the exterior gleamed white under the Tennessee sun, and the house almost seemed hopeful. The transformation continued inside, fresh paint, refinished floors, new fixtures, until only the back hallway remained untouched. The narrow stretch felt strangely suffocating, as if the walls leaned in with secrets they were tired of keeping. Curtis positioned his sledgehammer, expecting routine demolition, but on the third swing the hammer struck something that didn't belong. Beneath the plaster, his fingers brushed smooth wood, then a slab of matte black, cold, silent, wrong. A hidden door. A door without hinges, handle, or any sign it was meant to be opened from the outside. A chill spread through him despite the heat. Houses didn't hide things unless someone wanted them buried. He called Roy, and the two stood shoulder to shoulder staring at the black rectangle like it was an open grave. They didn't know it yet, but that sealed doorway would unravel a mystery that had haunted Millbrook for 4 decades. The next morning, equipped with lights, crowbars, and a shared unease neither wanted to admit, Curtis and Roy pried open the concealed door. The hinges groaned like something waking from a long, reluctant sleep. The smell hit first, stale air trapped since the Reagan era. The beam of Curtis's utility light swept across the cramped space, revealing details that made Roy's breath hitch. Crayon drawings pinned to peeling wallpaper, a calendar frozen in July 1985, scratched lines along the doorframe marking a child's growth, food tins stacked neatly in a corner, no windows, no escape. A room built for confinement. Curtis stepped back, his stomach twisting. "Someone's child lived here," he whispered. Roy nodded quietly, already shifting into the measured focus of a man who'd seen darkness before but never like this. Within minutes, police cars filled the driveway, caution tape stretching across the porch Curtis had rebuilt with pride. Detectives moved through the house, photographing every inch while neighbors gathered at a distance, whispering names long buried. Janet Pritchard, the little girl who vanished in 1985, the town's unanswered wound. The discovery made local news within hours, then regional headlines. Curtis watched the reports with a gnawing sense of responsibility. He hadn't just uncovered a forgotten room. He'd unearthed a life interrupted. And somewhere, if she was still alive, that lost girl had grown into a woman who had spent 40 years waiting for answers no one thought would ever come. Detective Oakes led the investigation with the quiet intensity of a man who understood that closure, even delayed by decades, still mattered. Evidence pulled from the hidden room revealed traces of a girl who had once clung to hope with tiny hands. A locket containing a family photo, a strand of hair matching childhood dental records, and tucked deep inside a heating vent, an aged photograph of a girl in a yard, innocent, unaware of the years about to be stolen. As officers traced the home's former owner, Howard Brennan, a quiet custodian who lived alone until his death, the narrative grew darker. Brennan had been questioned in 1985 but cleared. Now, with new evidence pointing squarely at him, the truth seemed clear. Janet hadn't run away. She had been taken. Yet what stunned everyone came 4 days after Curtis's discovery when a call came from Nashville. A woman had contacted victim services claiming she was Janet Pritchard. Fear kept her silent for decades, she said, but seeing the news changed everything. Curtis joined Wesley, Janet's brother, for the meeting at a community center. When the woman entered the room, thin, cautious, carrying years of invisible weight, Wesley's knees nearly gave out. "Janet," he whispered. Her face crumpled, and in that instant, decades of grief collided with the first flicker of healing. Curtis stepped back, humbled witness to a reunion that should have happened 40 years earlier. Janet's story came out slowly, each piece delivered with the trembling strength of someone reclaiming a voice long stolen. She had been taken on a rainy July afternoon when Brennan offered her a ride home, a familiar face she trusted. Instead, he drove her to that hidden room and locked the door behind her. For 4 years, she lived between those walls. He fed her, taught her lessons, even gave her books, as if trying to convince himself he wasn't a monster. But he measured her growth like data, controlled her world like an experiment, and let her see freedom only in drawings she taped to the walls. When he finally released her in 1989, he did so with threats that silenced her childhood. If she revealed the truth, he'd harm her family. Terrified, 12 years old and alone, she invented a name, Jenny Phillips, and slipped into foster care in another town. She grew into adulthood carrying a secret too heavy for a child to bear. As she recounted the years after, the silence, the fear, the longing for a brother she believed she'd never see again, Wesley held her hand like he never intended to let go. Curtis listened, heart tightening. All he had wanted was to fix a house. Instead, he had opened a door that stitched a shattered family back together. Janet looked at him across the table. "You found me," she said softly, "even when you didn't know you were looking." Healing did not come overnight, but Janet walked toward it with quiet determination. She moved into a small apartment near Wesley's garage, the first space in 40 years that was hers alone. At the Millbrook Library, she found solace reading to children whose laughter reminded her of a childhood she barely remembered. Curtis visited often, sometimes with Lily, whose bright curiosity softened Janet's guarded edges. One afternoon over coffee at Doreen's diner, Janet shared her plan to write a memoir, The Hidden Room, with every cent donated to organizations helping missing and exploited children. Curtis read her manuscript months later and wept openly. Her words carried the weight of trauma, but also the power of survival, a reminder that darkness could shape someone without defining them. Meanwhile, the house on Oakwood Lane found new life. A young family bought it, filling it with bicycles, bright curtains, and the everyday noise of children who had never known fear. When Curtis drove by, he saw more than a flipped home. He saw restoration, redemption. Yet the most pivotal moment came when Wesley and Janet invited him to their parents' graves. Janet laid white roses at their stone and whispered, "I'm home." She told them about the good man who found the room, the daughter who inspired him, and the truth that finally rose from the walls built to hide it. Curtis stood quietly, understanding that sometimes healing comes from breaking something open. Months passed, weaving the lives of Curtis, Janet, Wesley, Roy, and Lily into a family forged not by blood but by shared courage. When the first printed copy of Janet's memoir arrived, she handed it to Curtis before anyone else. The silver-embossed title glinted under the kitchen light as she read the dedication aloud. Wesley's name, Curtis S. Roy S. Lilies. And a final line for every survivor still searching for their way back. Curtis's throat tightened as he listened, humbled by the honor and the burden of the journey that brought them there. Later, after the others had gone, he sat on his porch watching stars blink awake in the velvet sky. The house he bought for $25, hoping only to fund Lily's education, had instead led him to a truth far more valuable. Janet's message, Lily's text reminding him she loved him, Wesley's newfound peace, Roy's steadfast loyalty. It all spun together into something that felt like purpose. Not the kind found in money or success, but in connection, in doing the hard thing simply because it's right. Curtis leaned back, the night air cool against his skin, and let the quiet wash over him. He thought of the hidden room, no longer a place of fear but the door that opened everything. He thought of the girl who survived, the brother who never stopped searching, and the man he had been before he swung that hammer. Life, he realized, had given him more than he ever expected. Standing beneath the dim porch light, Curtis understood that the house had changed him in ways he never could have predicted. What began as a desperate attempt to bridge a financial gap had transformed into a journey that rewrote the ending of someone else's lost childhood. He had uncovered a secret meant to stay buried, but in doing so, he had helped resurrect a life and reunite a family. And through that unexpected calling, he discovered something inside himself that had been dormant for years, his capacity to create light in places built for darkness. Life has a way of leading ordinary people